Hello, Divine Ones. Minister Ashley here. And today's topic is what is divination? Forgot my, let me put this on real quick. So you guys on TikTok can hear me a little bit better. Okay, what is divination? And how to use it. So, first, let's establish what divination is. It is not like how most people try to say that it is in modern times. It's a lot more to the word and the practice of divination. Some people I have found, and myself included from years ago, that it was a practice maybe not pertaining to God. It didn't have any connections to the divine. But if we look at the etymology, we will figure out that divination indeed is a practice that is connected to God. So, first of all, divination derives from the word, a Latin word called divinatio, that derives from divinus, meaning divine or pertaining to God. So the act of divination is a God practice, okay? So if we first understand that by us using divination in our world, and you'll be surprised as I continue on with this presentation, how much divination is connected to all these practices that we use in our modern world. Continuing on with the etymology of divination, it comes from divinus or deus, meaning God. The practice of seeking insight or predicting the future through the connection with the divine realms. If we understand this, we will know that divination is a practice that we can use in our daily lives. All right, so let's further dive into divination and how we can connect to God using divination. So let me go to my notes. I have quite a bit of notes, and you can find a lot of this information that I'm using here in my new book, The Bible's Hidden Divination and Magic. It is on Amazon, Instagram shop, as well as not taking any guess right now. So you can find it on TikTok, Instagram, as well as on Amazon. Okay. Some examples, and that I love to dive into the Bible. So my examples will come from the Bible, and many people have been taught that divination and magic is a condemnable practice based on what they have been taught from the Bible, but this is mistranslations. It's a lot of information that has been excluded, so people aren't taught this. So the main example of divination being used in the Bible is from the high priest. If you know about their outfit, their holy attire, let me see if I have any chats. Okay. If you know about their holy attire, you would know that they have the breastplate of righteousness, which we will dive into the divinatory practices with that. But they're attached to their ephod was a device called the Urim and Thummim. These were two stones that were used. They would believe that there were two stones that were used, one possibly black, one possibly white. And these two stones represented either a yes or a no. And so basically, for example, they would ask a question and they would toss these stones on either a plate or either on the ground or in some fashion to gain the answer. This is no different than us maybe taking dice and asking a question, or either one of the primary practices, that I use is taking a yes and a no, asking the question, really connecting, first of all, through prayer and asking, okay, is this the right decision for me to make? According to your will, Most High God, angels, ancestors, is this the correct decision I should make? And I am fully in alignment, and I am fully committed to whatever answer that may come through. And throw it down, toss it, and typically whatever stone or whatever device you may be using, let me get that off of there, that whatever lands closest to you would be the answer. For example, if the high priest throwing the dice or either these two stones, the Urim and the Thummim, whichever stone landed closest to them would be the answer. And that's how they would come up with their answer. So they use these in all different types of, let me change the screen on this presentation here. Let me go, give me a second. So depending on what answer came up, and they would use that answer, they would go with it, because they, in their culture, using these sacred practices and with their offerings, their sacrifices, and their lifestyle being committed to connecting to the divine, that they felt like those answers were directly from God themselves. All right, I'm waiting for this presentation to come up for you guys that are watching on YouTube. All right, I have a question here. All right. You read The Alchemist. You definitely know the two stones of the book were similar. Ah, yeah, very true. I have not read the complete book of The Alchemist, though. One of the comments here. Let me look at the comments. I'm here to spread some love, no matter you are. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kira. All right. Oh, thank you for the glitter badge. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's continue on. So I've covered what divination is. So basically, it is a divine art. You're connecting to the divine when you are using divination. And I always stress this point, that you must be in alignment with God. So whatever answer comes through and you are fully, first of all, I always suggest doing like a prayer, first of all, that it is indeed the answer that is supposed to be for you. So anybody can practice divination. You don't have to go to a specific person. The point is that you are forming and shaping your intuition for yourself by using divination. So therefore, you don't have to have an intermediate. In the ancient cultures, as you know, I do teach from the Bible, that the priest, the high priest, represented the intermediate in between the people and God. Same thing with Moses, represented all these other figures, represented the intermediate between the people and God. But if you go along with the theology, when Christ came, that we take on the mind, the consciousness of Christ. So therefore, we don't have to have the intermediate. And in this situation, in this instant, with this instance, I'm sorry, I get excited because I get so excited about this topic, that we have the opportunity to bridge the gap between the divine realms and ourselves, our human selves, and being able to tap into that flow of information for ourselves. Okay. So that's one of the primary reasons why I love to teach this, is so that people can have the tools for themselves. You don't have to go and seek guidance from other people. You don't have to be in a pew in a church. You don't have to look up this person and hire this person. Not knocking that at all, but you can do this anywhere you go. Okay, anywhere. Even if you're outside in nature, from bird divination, from cloud divination, you can receive those answers for yourself. So in the Bible, the word goro, translated sometimes as a stone or a pebble, that could have been one of the modalities that they use, but there's many, many different modalities of divination. But that one word is mentioned 70 times in the Old Testament. And this is related to, once again, the Urim and the Thummim, but divination, period. So if there's 70 instances of divination just in the Old Testament, of the priests, the prophets, even just typical people using these forms of divination to gain access to what God was telling them, what does that tell us about divination? It tells us that it's not a condemnable practice, as we have been taught. All right, let me go to the next slide. While waiting for this. All right. So divination and magic and medicine. I've done a presentation on this on the Christian Witches YouTube channel, but these three practices were interchangeable and highly connected in the ancient cultures. You couldn't have one without the other, because divination, like for example, if someone had an ailment in the village, what they would do, they would use divination to find out what the element was and what the source was. After they did that, then they would form a magical concoction, typically from herbs and spices that they grown themselves, that they blessed, that were in astrological alignment from the time that they were planted to the time they were harvested. And they would develop a medical concoction for that person. So that's just an example of how divination and magic and medicine were all interchangeable. All right, let's go to this other slide. Elemental divination. And most of these practices are lost, or maybe not lost, but absorbed into our modern culture, such as meteorology, the patterns of the sky, from the clouds to meteors to thunder, rain. All of these were forms of divination before they were integrated into our modern culture. One example would be more so something that you can do on your with your practice daily. If you know about hydromancy from the shower, um, for example, like say you're taking a shower and you're trying to seek advice from the water splashes. If you're drinking from your cup, your libations, if you, when you're drinking, the ring that is left around the cup, the flow of water, if you're letting water, from the faucet, there's different ways how you can use hydromancy. But Joseph in the Bible was one of the individuals that used hydromancy, but he also used cathobomancy, which is wine. And for example, if you're using wine, if you're drinking wine, sometimes they have fragments of wine of the grapes that are left behind in the cup, the settlement that's left in the cup. You could read the settlements, you could read the wine, okay, that's left in the bottom of the glass if you let it sit for a while. The form of divination using cups, period, is apothomancy. And you could use that in your daily practice. Dream divination. Dream divination is used by Joseph, but also by another individual found in the Bible, Gideon. And for example, like how they would say, don't test God or don't question God. That's taboo. You can definitely question God. If you do not have clarification, the divination will help to give you clarification. And you could question God to receive a confirmation. So for example, Gideon, he received a direct answer from God. He was like, I'm not really sure. So he asked again, using the fleece for confirmation. And you could, read about that in my book, or you can go look it up in Judges 6 and see how he used a form of divination for clarification, for confirmation. If you were unsure about something, you could always use divination for confirmation. This is very small. So some other biblical general uses of divination. So I'm going to refer back to the high priest. And they had not only the Urim and Thummim, but they also had the 12 precious stones on the breastplate of righteousness. All right, so this is what I sort of have gathered from independent research and what sort of kind of intuitively felt right to me. Now, this is not directly in the Bible. A lot of the sacred practices aren't verbatim listed out, but this is one thing that I think that they probably could have used. So each one of the 12 stones represented one of the tribes of Israel. So you had 12 tribes of Israel and you had 12 precious stones in the breastplate of righteousness. So when they were dividing up the land, for example, each party, they would get, their inheritance of the land. But who gets what piece of land? Say, for example, two people, three tribes, well, not people, but let's say 3 tribes want the same piece of land. How would you divide? How would you make that decision? They would use the stones. So they could have used the Urim and Thummim. For example, let me see here, making a decision, Leviticus 16:8. Dividing the land is in Numbers 26 and 55 through 56. So this is one way how they made a decision on how to divide the land, how to divide inheritances. For example, going back to the breastplate of righteousness and the 12 stones. Let's say that we just inherited a big piece of land. All right. We take the 12 stones, we put them in the bag, shake them up, and whoever pebble that is represented by that tribe comes out first, they get that piece of land, and they will go throughout each piece of land until everybody has inherited their piece of land. That's an example. Now, for example, if you wanted to use this technique in your life, you wanted to divide, let's say you have children, you have 5 children, who gets what? And you don't want to bicker with each one of them. You could use that technique, 5 straws, Jonah on the boat, It is believed that either they could have used stones or either they could have used straws. And drawing straws is another form of divination that was popular in that time. So 5 stones, or I even seen people use toothpicks, like break them up, and each person choose a toothpick. You throw the toothpicks down, and whoever it lands closest to, or either you hold them in your hand, and then people pick like that. All right, let me see here. I always have like stacks of notes. Okay, so women and divination in the Bible. So women, first of all, we highly magical, period. Anyway, so I'm going to, oopsie, I pressed the wrong button. All right, let me go to my next slide. While I'm waiting for this to propagate, I am going to go over oil divination. Oil divination, so this could be used in a lamp. If you have an old traditional lamp, by putting oil in there and allowing the flame to burn and watching how the oil and the flame works together, you could gain answers and clarity like that. That would be lampodomancy, as well as oil divination. But if you just want to use oil divination, there's different forms you can use with oil. From pouring oil and watching the way how the oil drains or flows. If you are using oil paints, that's another way how you can use oil divination. But in relation to the Bible, we have Hosea 14 and Nehemiah 8, and those are forms of divination using oil that they use. Okay, herbal divination. And one of the main forms of herbal sorcery I talk about quite frequently is pharmakia. And pharmakia is a spectrum within that form of divination and magic. So you can also use herbs for divination. Sometimes they would use barley and throwing the grain out, seeing how the pieces of grain would land, and they would gather information like that. You can also do that with salt. I have a video on my other YouTube channel on the biblical ritual, the school of biblical divination and magic. I have a video about salt divination. They would use that same form of a practice with salt. You can use it, salt, barley, pretty much any type of herb. You can use that form of divination by just tossing it out and observing how it lands, where it lands. Sometimes they would even make a salt crystal ball and stare into that big piece of salt crystal. Let me see here. Now, with referring back to herbal sorcery and pharmakia. So you can find that word pharmakia in Galatians as well as in Revelations. So the reason why in Revelation they demonize that form of magic is because people were using it for poisoning. So you have pharmakia, where you use herbs for healing, you use herbs for poisoning the body to heal the body. For example, using a bitter herb like wormwood to cleanse the body, and the waste is excreted from the body by using herbal cleanses. And then you have the condemnable form of herbal sorcery, which would be pharmacon, under the category of pharmacon, and that's killing, pretty much poisoning somebody. All right, let me go here. Now, going back to women in divination. So we all know that women, we have our cycle every month, and that was considered to be an abomination. You're so dirty. Oh no, what in the world? But that's not the case, though. Actually, that's for a whole nother discussion. But some of the ways how women would use divination. One of my favorite examples of women in the Bible of strong, independent leaders is Deborah in the Old Testament, found in Judges. She was the first and only female judge, but she also used other forms of divination. She was known as the woman of either lightning or or fire. So pyromancy, I have another video about pyromancy, how you can use pyromancy in your life, in your daily life. So you have candles, you can burn candles, watching the flame, how the way the flame burns. Some people would take a flame and then throw salt on the flame and watch how the patterns with the salt being tossed on the flame, how you could read and interpret that for to gain clarity. She's also known to be related to thunder and lightning. And some people, even this is an ancient practice, but even some places in the world, they still use this form of divination, going out in the middle of a storm. I'm not saying do it, that's all but you can go out in a storm and watch the clouds, the lightning, the thunder, gain clarity like that, or just from a safe place like your window, and you can gain clarity. All right, let's see some other. So I do have some condemnable and practices. All right, so I'm going to go over the condemnable one. So this is where when you read the Bible, I suffer not a witch, this about a witch or sorcery, all of that. So these scriptures are related to specific types of divination and magic. So these forms of divination and magic typically were related to necromancy, and necromancy is either pertaining to a dead body or either a soul or a spirit that has passed on to the other side, and someone's trying to conjure that spirit onto or into this physical world to gain clarity about a situation. Sometimes it also pertains to blood, using blood magic in order to gain understanding about a situation. One of the primary examples of someone that is demonized in the Bible is the witch of Endor, or either the Ab of Endor. So there's a couple different situations with her. All right. So first of all, that Ab, now there's so much information about this. I have to do a whole nother presentation about her. But with the Ab, typically it was a witch or a male, a wizard, typically a witch though. They would use a form of divination that required a human sacrifice. And the Moabites and the Canaanites were typically known to use child sacrifice. So that could have been one of the reasons why she was condemned. But I'm not going to go too deep into her practice, as I'm going to save that for another video, because there's so much information regarding the Ab of Endor. Another condemnable practice was worshiping or offering for clarification or divinatory or magic purposes to the Shadim. And the Shadim were pretty much like demons. This is where we get the idea of demons from. These were creatures that sometimes they could be half animal, half human, or either half angel, half human. But whatever the case was, is that typically they were required an offering, and people would gain information from them. Now, I have my own beliefs about what demons are. I don't think in traditional sense about demons, but that will be for another discussion. There's another condemnable practice regarding kashaf, and kashaf means mutter, or a sorcery, a form of sorcery of conjuring spirits and enchantment, mentioned in Exodus 7:11. Now, as I have done my research, that a lot of the rabbis and the scholars cannot come to a common consensus about this form of divination, and even the wielder of this divination, as it is a tradition that is passed down via mouth or oral tradition. And a lot of the people that held this knowledge, they were sworn to secrecy. So that's the reason why, you don't really have a whole lot of information. You have to dig for it. And it takes a person that's very passionate to want to dig for that type of information, which I love this type of stuff. But anyways, so when you read these passages that condemn magic and divination, just know that it's not general. Most people are not trying to conjure a spirit. Most people just want clarification in their life. And that comes through prayer in forming a spiritual practice, a spiritual relationship, and you could use divination. Like seriously, I could just be going about my normal day and something would catch my attention, and that will be a confirmation for myself. This is the same for everyone. You don't have to really go through anybody else. It's good to have advisors, but we are definitely moving into this age. We are in the age of Aquarius, at the very beginning of this age, where it's about self, and it's about finding your spiritual community, but it's also about first finding yourself and what works for you. And when you find that, you go on that journey and you magnetize the proper people that vibe with you. You don't have to go out and, you know, do a whole lot. It literally, things will come to you as you continue to align with your divine purpose. All right, let me see. Am I going to read anything else from here? Okay, divination according to the Bible. I mean, to the body, found in the Bible. All right. So, body parts. Each one of our body parts, we have a form of divination that corresponds with that. You have with your feet is podomancy, and with your skeleton, like your bones. And this is where we have the other form of divination, where you casting bones or people reading bones. And I've seen that on TikTok. I've seen it, many other places too. And this is along the lines of, it can be categorized as necromancy, but not completely, just because the bones, obviously they came from a living source, but they have passed on. So some people can use it as a form of necromancy to tap into the spirit of that animal, or either, like, as far as spirit animals, that's what I mean, or to gain clarification. I'm a textile person, so when I touch things, I feel things and messages come to me like that. So some people, they may hear messages by touching something. Sometimes, just having that energy around them, they can connect to whatever they may be trying to connect to, whether it be that spirit or they're trying to gain clarification. So using bones, and bones, our skeletal system, not referring to a human, but this the skeletal system altogether. That's a form of divination. And with our skull, now give me a second to pronounce this word with this form of divination. Okay, 𝐓𝐡𝐞, and that is interpreting skulls. And through my biblical studies, we know about Delilah. And Delilah would massage Samson's hair, his head, and, play with his hair and everything. So my personal opinion is that she could have used this form of divination to read his skull. And if you know about skull working, now you have the distant skull working, where people may symbolically do it using sympathetic magic, using a skull to implant messages into someone's head, or physically, like if you go to a massage therapist, these are all connected to forms of divination. Even a lot of medical professions are connected to divination, from reading what is it, like, the not just the bones and the skull and reading all different things like the liver, the bladder. I've got so many notes, especially in references, especially in my book. I can't, really recall all of them off the top of my head. But to go over all of them would take quite some time. But you can always reference in here. I have so many references. But in our modern world, the origins of our medical system, of our reality, is based on divination. Like, you will be so surprised. Of course, we talked about meteorology. We have nephtomancy, the reading of clouds. We have aeromancy, related to lightning and thunder. We have astromancy, the interpretation of wind. The list goes on and on. Now, I do want to touch on really quickly about astrology, and that is a sacred practice. It's also related to alchemy. This was a practice that was heavily laid in anatomy, heavily inlaid in the ancient cultures. Like I said before, with medicine and divination, and those were all related together. Using astrology, knowing when to plant, on what moon, where is the moon placed, so I know what to plant, when to harvest it, when to create my tinctures. All of that was related to astrology and the celestial movements. Now, tarot is a fairly new practice. It would be related to casting lots in a way, a little more intricate, as there's with the tarot cards, obviously there's a lot more than either 2 to 10 cards, definitely, because typically when casting lots, it will be the urim and thummim, 2 stones, or either like a bag of stones or pebbles or sticks or bones. So with the traditional tarot deck, there's like, I think, how many are there? Like 50, right? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. 60, I think 60 something. Or anyways, it's a lot of tarot cards. And so basically what tarot is related to the subconscious mind. What we have going on in our subconscious mind through the symbols that are on the tarot cards, the astrological associations, this is related to our subconscious mind. So when we use tarot, we're using symbolism, and it will give us clarification on the unseen. All right. So if people are talking about anyone using tarot or oracle cards or anything like that, just know it's so much that goes into it. They don't really know. Um, a lot of these practices have been condemned, and a lot of people, they just don't know exactly. They don't know what it is. First of all, they don't know the history. They don't know the origin. All they know is just what they have encountered as far as someone else telling them what they should or should not do. But we are moving out of that age of the sheep, and we're moving more into the age of we are our own leaders, and our intuitive selves that lead and guide us. So these tools will help us to be able to stay in connection with the divine and staying on our divine path. We don't have to look this way or that way, on the straight and narrow. All right, let me see if there's any. Have surgery when the let me go through gut health. Yes, Kimberly. Yeah. um Herbalism, gut health. All right. Oh, thank you guys for all of the roses. I really do appreciate it. And I didn't even look. When I get in the flow, I try not to look at the comments because I would just get sidetracked or whatever. I'm trying to see if there's anything else, but I thought I brought my oracle deck over here. Well, you guys, make sure you do go get this book right here. It's like 260 pages. 200 and how many? About 250 pages of divination, hidden divination, and magic in the Bible. And yes, it is applicable to today. You can use these forms of divination in your life today. And by us knowing the origins of these practices and the truth about these practices, we are no longer held prisoner to other people's opinions and misinformation. A step further with your daily divination and devotion, I have my I Am That I Am divine guidance cards. It is an oracle deck technically, but I say divine guidance because literally you are connecting to the divine. So with these cards, there's 44, 45 technically, 44, 45 cards, and they're watercolor cards. And each one of them, they have an I am statement. So you can just use it for an I am statement, or you can use it for like a Bible study. And I will start to do these like Bible studies. Like I used to do extended Bible studies a long time ago. This is before I even made this deck. But like, for example, if you want to do it, use these for daily divination and devotion, you could just say a prayer like, Most High, God, angels, ancestors, show me what I should be focusing on today, or what message do you have for me today? I am vision. I think this came out during this weekend. I am vision. God gave you a vision that's unique to your divine journey. Okay, so already we have a divine message here for us, the collective. Okay. Mm. For teaching us how to. Yeah, it keeps you in alignment. Yeah. Every day, the message. And I have the scripture there. and this is Habakkuk 2:3. You could go and look that up with the scripture, and then from there you can gain additional clarity. All right. And you can use these every single day. It will help you. It's a fun way how to help you use sharpen your intuition, but also daily devotion to keep you focused. And I have symbols on here. So like this one, I am a producer. I have Leo, symbol with Leo, and it has the scripture, it has a message, and it has an I am statement. I am a producer. That means I can create. I'm a creator. I produce things. So it's an encouragement every day.